Back in school, Silas was like a shining star, surrounded by everyone's adoration. He was the only one who had a liking for me. He pampered me to the skies. But when we broke up, I broke his proud spirit, and he almost lost his life. He hated me for 5 years. Later, we met again. Silas had become a top star, and he even had a beautiful fiancée. Someone asked him, during your school days, did you ever like someone with all your heart? He gave a smile and said, never. When I returned to the campus, the atmosphere froze. No one expected me to come. Nor did anyone welcome my arrival. I stood at the classroom door, with taunts ringing in my ears. She dares to show up after screwing Silas over so badly. Probably seeing that Silas is famous now, she regrets it. She was always a liar back then, and now she's even more thick-skinned. I held my head high, as if I hadn't heard a thing. Today was a special class reunion. Our whole class was invited to shoot a promotional video for our alma mater. Because a big shot had emerged from our class, Silas. He debuted right after graduating from high school and had a smooth career path. In just 5 years, he had become a top-tier star. This promotional video was centered around him. To help Silas relive the feeling of high school, the class monitor deliberately invited the whole class. Except for me. Lily, the class monitor, came up to me. Silas will be here soon. Could you please avoid him for a while? I was silent. The class monitor thought I didn't want to leave. It's not that I want to drive you away, but, to be honest with you, the invitation list was sent to me by Silas. Only then did I slowly look at him. You're not on this list. The class monitor's voice was soft but also very straightforward. Silas doesn't want to see you. Back in school, no one didn't know Silas. He was shining brightly, surrounded by everyone's adoration. And he liked me like crazy. But it was this very Silas whose proud spirit I broke when we broke up. He almost lost his life. It was only natural that he didn't want to see me. I retreated outside the classroom to wait. After a while, Silas arrived. He was surrounded by the camera crew and didn't see me. Having not seen each other for years, he was even more outstanding than in school. His already astonishingly handsome features, under the care of a professional team, took on an almost blinding allure that made it hard to look directly at him. The moment he entered the classroom, the whole class fell silent. Silas walked straight to his seat. When passing by the front desk, his steps paused slightly. That was my seat, now empty. Move this desk and chair out, he said. The assistant was slightly stunned. Why move it out? It looks bad when it's empty in the shot. Oh, okay. The desk and chair I had once sat on were immediately carried away and randomly placed in the corridor. No one cared. Before the shooting started, there was an interview session first. The campus junior reporter asked, I heard that senior you had very good grades, but there was half a semester when you were at the bottom of the class. Could you tell us why? Was there? Yes, it was in the second semester of sophomore year. I don't remember. Silas gave a faint smile. He really seemed not to remember. But I remembered it clearly. That year, Silas surprisingly ranked in the bottom 10 of the class in the monthly exam. The homeroom teacher called him to the office for a talk. I was passing by the window with my homework in my arms. He suddenly turned to look at me. After coming back from the office, Silas poked my back. Classmate Lily, you heard the teacher scolding me, right? Yeah. I lost so much face. As compensation, could you explain some problems to me? As he said that, he gave me a smile. The smile of a teenager, wild and unrestrained. It warmed my entire youth. Later, Silas told me that he had deliberately done badly in the exam. He had planned it all along when it came to me. But now, Silas said he didn't remember. Inside the classroom, the atmosphere was still lively. I stared at the discarded desk, lost in thought. The last question might be a bit gossipy. Senior you, during your school days, did you ever like someone with all your heart? The whole class fell silent again. No one knew how long the silence lasted. Silas curled his lips with a hint of mockery. Never. Silas came from a good family and was good-looking. He was the favorite of the teachers and a prominent figure in the eyes of the classmates. Proud as he was, even his confession was grand and passionate. In June of that year, at the graduation ceremony, Silas gave a speech on behalf of all the students. Suddenly, he threw away his speech manuscript and said, "Classmate Lily, after the college entrance examination, be my girlfriend." Screams erupted on the playground. The senior 3 students had been suppressing their emotions for too long. This confession was like an opening, and everyone let out their emotions together. Amid the cheers like waves, Silas jumped down from the stage and ran towards me. Even after 5 years had passed, I still couldn't forget the dazzling light on Silas that day. Later, someone asked Silas why it was me. Obviously, most of the girls in the school had a crush on him, including the school beauty. I wasn't popular and always kept to myself. Why did he like me? Silas said, "I once bumped into Lily practicing the piano. She was playing Eason Chan's Long Time No See. I've been thinking about it for 3 years." The school beauty retorted, "But she hasn't touched the piano for a year. She just doesn't want to play. Our Lily can play whenever she wants and doesn't play whenever she doesn't want to." "It's not that she doesn't want to play," the school beauty said in a sarcastic tone. "She boasted so much before, but she didn't even pass the preliminary audition of the Central Conservatory of Music." Silas got really angry that day. After that, no one dared to say a bad word about me in front of him. However, Silas didn't know. I didn't touch the piano, not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't. I started learning the piano at 5 and passed the 10th level at 9. After a performance at 16, a piano master personally came to me. He encouraged me to apply for the Central Conservatory of Music and become his proud disciple in the future. I thought my future was bright. Until before the art exam, I was in a car accident. My left hand was severely damaged. The doctor tried their best to remedy it, but there were still sequelae. I couldn't play the piano anymore. Even with a little force, my left hand would tremble uncontrollably. My mother advised me to repeat the year and take the exam again. But I didn't listen. When we're young, who doesn't have lofty aspirations and refuses to bow to fate? I stubbornly went to the examination room. But I played so poorly. The teacher frowned and interrupted me, saying, "Next." I also heard whispers. "Is this the so-called genius piano girl?" I thought she was so amazing. Later, when the preliminary audition results were announced, my name wasn't on the list. I felt as if I had been doused with a bucket of cold water, completely drenched. From then on, I became introverted and didn't like to talk. A classmate asked me, "Lily, why don't you play the piano anymore?" I casually said, "I don't want to play anymore." This was my last bit of stubbornness. Because I didn't want to be regarded as a useless person by them. Nor did I want to be the subject of their pity. Pity is an arrogant emotion. However, the news of my failure in the preliminary audition quickly spread throughout the school. A classmate said, "She's such a liar. She didn't even pass the preliminary audition, but she said she didn't want to play." It's so funny. Because of this lie, I became a laughingstock. But I would rather be laughed at and disliked than be the subject of pity. So I never defended myself. However, the tragedy didn't end there. My family wanted to find the hit-and-run driver, but they were blocked at every turn. There was no surveillance footage, the appearance didn't match, and there were countless reasons. In short, the driver had great power and disappeared perfectly. My mother ran around countless times and aged a lot. I also gradually became numb in the isolation of my classmates. Silas showed up at this time. He transferred to our class in sophomore year. He carried his desk to the back of me and asked, "Is this seat taken?" He would gently poke my back, "Can I borrow an eraser?" He would cover me with his school uniform when I was taking a noon break. Silas had a good relationship with everyone. But the first time he got angry was also because of me. One day, when I wasn't there, the class was gossiping about me. "Lily, she's so vain. She boasted about being a piano genius before, but she didn't even pass the preliminary audition. The media that praised her before were all bought by her, right? She's so vain to the core, disgusting. What does she do all day if she doesn't play the piano? I saw her getting into an old man's car before. TSK, she's so young, and she's already selling herself. The filthy words were unbearable to hear. I stood at the door, reluctant to enter the classroom. Just then, Silas rushed in. He kicked over that person's desk. Go sell your father. This was the first time I heard Silas swear. Even though it was a swear word, my heart skipped a beat. From then on, I also had a girlish crush, named Silas. Pulling myself out of the memories, I walked towards the discarded desk. There was a character, Li, which means gift in Chinese, on the corner of the desk. Everyone thought it was Lily's, Li, as in her name. Actually, it was Silas's. It was clearly a two-way pursuit. But why did it end up so horribly later? Oh right, because in late August, Silas took me to his home. I met his mother. The mother he described as gentle, meticulous, and capable of everything. It was her. She was the one who caused the hit and run, bribed the connections, and refused to take responsibility. The one who ruined my future was the beloved family member of Silas. And this perpetrator didn't even remember anything. Probably because she fled in such a hurry that day that she didn't notice my appearance. She greeted me with feigned gentleness. Silas has brought a female classmate home for the first time. Silas scratched his head embarrassedly and whispered in my ear, I told you so. My mom will definitely like you. But he didn't know. I felt as if I were in an ice cave. Why are you here? The memory ended when someone called me. Cece, a popular female star. Her most famous work was The Gossip with Silas. They were childhood friends and grew up together. Soon after Cece debuted, Silas took good care of her. Cece's assistant was holding dozens of cups of milk tea, seemingly planning to distribute them to everyone. I asked you a question. Why are you here? She looked at me arrogantly. Actually, I was here to meet the music director. I just happened to catch this reunion. But there was no need to explain it to her. I said, this is my alma mater. Can't I come? On the contrary, Miss Cece, you went to the affiliated high school, right? Why are you here at our school? Silas asked me to accompany him. Cece brushed her hair aside, deliberately showing the ring on her hand. Seeing that I was staring at it, Cece said, this is the engagement ring between Silas and me. I was speechless for a moment and then said, congratulations. Oh, right. I asked Silas if he wanted to invite you to the wedding. She said with a smile. But Silas said that he still hates you. When you broke up back then, you cheated on him and slept with his half-brother. I pursed my lips and remained silent. Silas hates his half-brother the most. But you, not only did you cheat, but you also claimed that you were just using Silas as a substitute for his brother. Silas was so stimulated by you that he almost lost his life. Fortunately, he has moved on now. We are very happy. I nodded numbly. Oh, as for you, I heard that you haven't been doing well? You deserve it. It's karma. Humiliating me seemed to make Cece very happy. She walked away on her stiletto heels. Because of Cece's arrival, there were laughter and chatter in the classroom. Separated by a wall, in the corridor, it was just me and my desk again. I pretended that there were piano keys on the desk and played silently. I was so immersed in it. So I didn't notice that Silas had come out. He was wearing his school uniform, standing at the classroom door. The wind blew, lifting the hem of his school uniform. He looked at me, without the light in his eyes from those years. Just one glance. He turned around and left. After finishing talking with the music director, I left too. By dusk, I suddenly realized that I had left some materials in the desk drawer. When I rushed back to the classroom, they had already finished the event. But there was still one person who hadn't left. Silas was lying on his seat, as if asleep. His assistants were all gone. His head was buried in his elbow, and his fingertips were hanging on the back of my chair. My desk and chair had been moved back by someone again. This scene made me stunned for a moment. A teenager, a school uniform, the setting sun. The scene seemed to overlap with the past. But I knew very clearly that we had both changed. I walked over quietly, not wanting to wake him up. The materials weren't in the desk drawer. Could they have been thrown away by the cleaning aunt? I stood up, ready to leave, when my wrist was grabbed. Silas grabbed me and slowly lifted his head. Are you looking for this? His voice was cold. He took out the materials from his own desk drawer. Thank you. I took them and was about to leave. Wait. Silas pulled the corner of his mouth wearily. Even this habitual little movement was the same as it was 5 years ago. Classmate Lily, I kept your materials for you. Can you just dismiss me with a thank you? I was silent. Silas clicked his tongue. You don't even dare to speak. You've become so timid. How has your mom been recently? I opened my mouth and asked such a question. Silas was a bit surprised too, but didn't think much about it. She's fine. Recently, we've been invited to a parent-child variety show. Silas's mother was called Lana, a singer, with a public image of having both virtue and artistic skills. Don't you have anything else to ask? Silas said. I looked at him and suddenly smiled. Silas, don't be like this. If you are like this, you don't seem like Siki. Silas's face froze. I continued, the words on the back weren't carved by me. Don't be so self-absorbed. Silas asked, Lily, why on earth did you do this to me? For fun. Is this reason enough? Silas was angered by me and left. He still doesn't know the real reason why I took revenge on him. To be honest, it's a bit embarrassing. After finding out that Lana was the hit-and-run driver, I reported it to the relevant department. But Lana had a deep-rooted foundation and still remained hidden behind the scenes. Her agent came forward to handle this matter. At that time, the agent said this, Teacher Lana has something very important recently and is inconvenient to meet you. We are willing to provide compensation, and the amount will surely satisfy you. But there is a condition, just pretend that this accident never happened and don't tell anyone else. What could be so important that Lana didn't even have time to meet me? Soon, I knew. Silas debuted. Lana attended his debut press conference, looking glamorous. At that moment, my disgust for their family reached its peak. I wanted to go all out and expose the truth. And I also wanted to tell Silas. But when I stood in front of Silas, I couldn't say it out loud. I thought of a possibility. After knowing the truth, Silas might still choose to protect his mother. Why wouldn't he? On one side was a love that lasted only 3 months. On the other side was the blood-related family bond that had lasted for more than 10 years. Moreover, Silas had a very good relationship with his mother. Facing human nature, what were the odds that he would help me? If he abandoned me and sided with Lana, what would I do? Just thinking about that scene made me feel that my love was ridiculously foolish. I hovered on the edge of whether to tell or not. In the end, it was my mother who stopped me. My father passed away early, and my mother was my only relative. To treat my illness and pay for my schooling, she ran around everywhere and was soon worn out. Going to the hospital with me meant she had to be absent from work. After being absent too many times, my mother was fired by her unit and lost her job. She had been hiding it from me. Every day, she left home at 7, pretending to go to work, but actually went to work as a waitress in a restaurant. Once, I passed by the restaurant and saw her small figure. A customer scolded her for being too slow in serving the dishes. My mother kept apologizing, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. That night, my mother transferred 100 yuan to me. The unit gave out a bonus today. Take it and buy something nice to eat. How long has it been since you ate steak? I said, Mom, I don't like steak anymore. My mother said, is 100 yuan too little? Steaks are expensive now. She rummaged through every pocket but couldn't find any more money. Finally, she said awkwardly, I'm sorry, Lily. Mom is old and useless. At night, I buried my head in the quilt and cried my heart out. To be honest, even right after the accident, I hadn't cried like this. The next day, I took the initiative to contact Lana's agent. I accepted their compensation. At the same time, I would keep my mouth shut and let this matter die in my heart. On the day the agent transferred the money, Silas also came to see me. He said, "Lily, I'm going to Bali to shoot an MV next week. My mom will reimburse all the expenses. Come with me." His eyes were bright and clear, without a speck of dust. I hid my left hand and said, "No. What's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? Didn't you say before that you really wanted to go to Bali?" I specifically chose to shoot there this time. He bent down, looking at me with concern. "Oh, right. Because Lana hadn't come forward to apologize to me, she still doesn't know until now that the girlfriend of her son is the girl who claimed compensation from her. The agent must have given her the information. She probably threw the information aside without even looking at it. Maybe it went straight into the shredder. Silas was good and loved me very much. But he was Lana's son. Did he deserve my love? I felt tired and said, "Silas, let's break up." After I said that, Silas went crazy. He refused to accept it no matter what and kept pestering me. So I found Siki, the illegitimate son of the Silas family. I knew that both Silas and Lana hated him. The two brothers hardly had any contact with each other. But they looked very similar. I asked Siki to help me stage a play, and Siki readily agreed. He didn't like Silas either. He was quite happy to discuss Silas. In fact, I had known Siki for a long time. We had been in the same piano class before. He was sort of my junior. Later, everyone knew what happened. I cheated on Silas with Siki and was caught in bed by Silas. I told Silas, "You're just a substitute for Siki." Silas was devastated. At the most devastated moment, his eyes were bloodshot and he held a knife tip against himself. "Lily, you're lying to me, right?" He asked for confirmation as if in a trance. I said, "I'm not lying to you. I like Siki." Silas was about to stab the knife into himself right away. He was stopped by the people present. That day, his blood flowed all over the floor from his palm. How similar it was to the day I had the car accident. Later, I went abroad to see a doctor and cut off all contact with everyone. I heard that Silas was depressed for a long time. I don't know what happened later. Today was the day for me to go to the hospital for a re-examination. I ran into Cece at the outpatient clinic. Surprisingly, Silas was there too. He was wearing a baseball cap and a mask, looking down at his phone and didn't see me. But it seemed that they had come together. What a coincidence. "We meet again." Cece quietly came over to talk to me. I just ed and didn't want to say much. But Cece wouldn't let me go. Silas postponed his schedule specifically to accompany me to the doctor. She pointed to the sign next to her. "We're registered for the obstetrics department." Obstetrics? So she's pregnant? I said, "Congratulations," and left. After a while, Silas noticed me. Cece wasn't around. She must have gone into the examination room alone. When he saw me, he was a bit taken aback. "Are you sick?" I didn't confirm or deny it. Can't I like the male doctors here? "Did you break up with Siki?" "It's none of your business." "Right." Silas gave a cold smile, as if thinking of something. "You could even betray the piano you loved the most. What else can't you betray?" I didn't refute. Just then, the orthopedic nurse came. I often came to the hospital, and the medical staff here all knew me. Especially this nurse sister in front of me. She had been working here since the accident happened to me a few years ago. The nurse sister came over to chat with me. "Lily, is this your friend?" After a long time, she regarded me as her little sister and took good care of me. Silas was covered up so tightly that the nurse didn't recognize him. I was just about to deny it when Silas nodded. "Yes." The nurse said, "That's good. You have a friend with you today. How have you been feeling recently?" I said, "Pretty good." "Okay. I'll ask the doctor to give you a thorough check later." "Check what?" Silas became alert. "Lily, are you injured?" The nurse sister was surprised. "You're her friend and you don't know?" Her left hand was seriously injured 5 or 6 years ago. Silas was stunned instantly. Seeing Silas's expression, the nurse sister said, "You really don't know? She had a car accident in her sophomore year of high school, and her left hand was seriously damaged." Seriously damaged? What happened? Lily, you didn't tell your friend? I shrugged. There's nothing to tell. Oh my little sister. How can you say there's nothing? Because of this injury, you couldn't even play the piano anymore. Silas shuddered all over. Couldn't play the piano? That's in the past now. The nurse sister was quite emotional. Our doctors originally judged that she would never be able to play the piano again in her life. But Lily refused to give up. Right after graduating from high school, she went abroad to see a doctor. She stuck to rehabilitation every day, endured all the hardships and tiredness, and now she can play the piano again. Hearing this, several young nurses nearby also came over. Yes. Lily is the most amazing patient I've ever seen. Her willpower is so strong that ordinary people can't bear it. The doctor said that it's a miracle that she can be where she is today. By the way, Lily, a patient wanted to meet you a few days ago and asked you how you managed to persevere. I was a bit stunned and said, I just wanted to save myself. I wasn't joking. The cost of living abroad was high. Although Lana had given us money, my mother and I didn't dare to just sit around and waste it. My mother took care of me while working illegally in a Chinese restaurant. Once she collapsed from exhaustion, and I took care of her instead. She shed tears in her sleep, but when she woke up, she refused to tell me what she had dreamed about. So I guess that she must have dreamed of me playing the piano. I told her, Mom, don't worry. I'll keep playing the piano. My mother said, Silly child, what are you talking about? Really? I was very determined and serious. I will definitely return to the stage. Just wait and see. This was my promise to my mother and also to myself. From that day on, I overcame my depressed state of mind and keep exercising and rehabilitation. It was painful and risky. But rather than being a half-disabled person like this, it was better to fight with all my might. I wanted to prove that fate couldn't defeat me. I wouldn't rely on anyone. I wanted to save myself from the fire and water. I would do whatever it took. I just wanted to save myself. I said with a curved lip. Fortunately, after 5 years, I managed to save myself. You'll have a solo performance next week, right? Yes, the first solo performance after my comeback. You're all welcome to come. Silas hadn't said a word all this time. He seemed to be shocked. He stared at me motionlessly. After a long time, he uttered a few words, You haven't changed. What? Lily, you haven't changed at all. The day I first saw you in freshman year of high school, you were like this. Unwilling to admit defeat, constantly practicing. That stubbornness, I'll never forget it in my life. My number was called. I didn't hear what he said after that. After a series of examinations, it took about an hour and a bit. Silas still hadn't left. He was waiting by the door. He probably heard everything the doctor said to me just now. Lily, can I ask you a question? Yeah. Why didn't you tell me about your injured hand back then? I rubbed my wrist. When I was going to tell you, I found it unnecessary. What do you mean? Silas's eyes darkened. Because I was just a substitute and didn't deserve to know, right? I smiled. You can understand it that way if you want. I thought he would turn around and leave angrily like last time. But he didn't. He always followed behind me. The pharmacy gave me a bag of medicine, and Silas wanted to carry it for me. I said, Big Star, could you please stay away from me? I don't want to be in the news. He didn't listen. Lily, how is your hand now? When will the doctor say it will be fully recovered? That's none of your concern. Where's Cece? I asked her to go back first. I stopped in disbelief. How could you let a pregnant woman go back alone? Pregnant woman? Silas was also stunned. Cece isn't pregnant. Then she's almost pregnant. You two are getting married. Who told you that? Silas frowned, looking serious. She and I aren't even boyfriend and girlfriend. What kind of marriage are we talking about? This surprised me. She was wearing an engagement ring and said it was from you. No, I don't know about the ring. I didn't give it to her, and there's no such thing as an engagement. Then why did you postpone your schedule today to accompany her to the obstetrics department? Silas frowned even deeper. It's my cousin who's pregnant. And I didn't have any schedule today, so I accompanied my cousin here. But it was inconvenient with only me as a male, so Cece volunteered to come together. She's known my cousin for many years too. So, there was no engagement, and no pregnancy. Cece was lying. How boring. Even if it were true, so what? Did she think I would care? But Silas cared a lot. He was determined to explain clearly. Lily, I have nothing to do with Cece. My studio has also clarified it specifically. I knew about this. Silas's studio did clarify it. But in the current entertainment industry, clarifications are like farting. Nobody believes them. Naturally, I didn't believe it either. You two are a good match, I said politely. Just like Siki and I are a good match. Whenever Siki was mentioned, Silas would feel uncomfortable. But I did it on purpose. The unhappier he was, the happier I was. Lily, do you still like Siki? Yes, I do. Then let's get back together. I stared at him. Are you crazy? I'm very calm. Silas said word by word, in the past 5 years, I've figured out one thing. As long as you're willing to be with me, even if I'm regarded as a substitute, I'm willing to accept it. He pursed his lips and lowered his eyes. It seemed that he had made a great determination, throwing away his dignity, and said the last sentence. Being a third party is also okay. For the first solo performance after my comeback, the violinist of the orchestra came to cheer me on and also gossiped a bit. Sister Lily, are you and Silas for real? Do you believe everything the paparazzi say? Of course it's fake. Then what's your relationship exactly? The little girl blinked her big eyes, looking very innocent. So helpless. I said, just alumni. You're the 20th person to ask me this week. Just last week, in the hospital, Silas proposed to get back together. I refused and reminded him, you said you never liked someone with all your heart. This was what he said in the interview. Silas said, that was a prearranged answer, required by the school. They were afraid of giving bad guidance to the current students. But I didn't know why you weren't invited to the shooting. The list wasn't written by me. Wasn't it you? No, it was written by my agent. His agent knew about our past, so it was normal that he didn't invite me. Silas said, Lily, I've always liked you. You should know that. Shall we get back together? I still refused. He was covered up so tightly, but he was still recognized by his fans. But at that time, I didn't know that pictures had already been taken. The light mosaic on my face was almost as good as nothing. Soon, the people in the orchestra recognized me. Gossips came pouring in, which was really annoying. Silas's studio quickly issued a statement, asking everyone not to disturb ordinary people. At the same time, they once again clarified the gossip with Cece. Silas himself reposted it and only said one sentence, I have someone I've liked for a long time. Please stop spreading rumors, and friends should also behave themselves. Cece deleted all her Weibo posts related to Silas overnight. Because she had lied and sowed discord, Silas was no longer willing to help her. Her resources plummeted from then on, but that's another story. At the moment, the little girl in the orchestra said disappointedly, just alumni? I thought the legendary first love of Silas was you. Don't overthink it. I lifted my skirt and went on stage. My mother was sitting in the front row, the best seat. There were tears shining in her eyes. They were tears of joy. The performance was a great success, and the applause was thunderous. As soon as I got off the stage, the members of the orchestra surrounded me, offering their congratulations one after another. The violin girl was extremely excited. Sister Lily, you said you were just alumni. Huh? Silas has come to watch your performance. Where? Before she could answer, Silas's voice rang out. Here. He was walking towards me with a bouquet of flowers in his hands. Congratulations on the success of your debut performance. He presented the flowers to me. They weren't roses, but lilacs. The flower language of lilacs is first love and glory. There was a greeting card on the flowers. Silas's handwriting was as elegant as ever. Lily, the glory that belongs to you will never fade. I stared at those words for a long time. The members of the orchestra had already gathered around Silas, gossiping. Male God, how long have you known our Lily? 8 years. Is she the person you like? Yes. He answered so frankly that everyone screamed and cheered. Stay calm, the leader of the orchestra said. Lily is so beautiful. It's normal for a big star to like her. Silas smiled. She is indeed beautiful, but at the beginning, it wasn't because of her appearance. Oh? Then what was it for? Probably because I admire the strong. Tell us more quickly. Silas looked gentle. The first time I saw her was in the Lily Hall at school. She was practicing the piano, playing Long Time No See. The teacher said she was already playing very well, but she wasn't satisfied and kept practicing again and again. At first, I just liked the song Long Time No See, so I stayed to listen. Later, I became curious about how long she could keep going. That's how I watched her practice all night. A member of the orchestra said, yes, she is that kind of person. She hasn't changed over the years. Silas raised his eyes and stared at me. She's still the same Lily. After the gossip session ended, Silas proposed again. Lily, let's get back together. Thank you for your passionate speech just now, but getting back together is unnecessary. Then I'll ask again in a few days. Don't ask again. It's impossible. I pointed at the door. The person who's coming to pick me up is here. Mr. Yu, please do as you like. Silas looked over, and his face turned pale instantly. It was Siki. Siki was holding a large bouquet of roses and looking at Silas provocatively. Brother, do your fans know that you have a hobby of poaching other people's girlfriends? Silas had a cold face. Why did you come back? Siki had been in other cities before. He just returned today to help me. Siki had a cigarette in his mouth and smiled loosely. How could I not come to my baby's performance? I've already inquired, Silas said. You two haven't been together all these years. That's none of your business. Siki, you're starting a business now and urgently need a large sum of money, right? Silas's tone was calm. I can give it to you. I don't give a damn about your stinking money. How are you going to take care of Lily without money? Have you thought about that? Almost forgot that Silas was only a lovesick fool in front of me. He was essentially a straight-A student. Straight-A students are best at getting to the core of a problem and then hitting the nail on the head. Sure enough, Siki was stumped by his question. Lily's hand needs care. I can provide her with the best conditions, take her to see the best doctors in the world, regardless of the cost. At the same time, with my career convenience, I can give her more performance opportunities if she wants. I know Lily is very independent and doesn't like to rely on others. But that doesn't mean her partner can take it for granted that he doesn't possess these abilities. Siki came to help me. I couldn't just watch my comrade being hit like this. I asked Silas, what on earth do you want to say? Silas smiled slightly. Fair competition. The scene was quiet for a while. After a while, Siki sneered. Fair? Silas, what qualifications do you have to talk about fairness? Why don't I have the qualifications? Anticipating that Siki was going to say more, I stepped forward to try to cover his mouth, but it was too late. Go back and ask your dear mother. Your noble mother has ruined sister so badly. Do you still expect fairness? Bullshit. Time seemed to stretch. Silas was only stunned for a few seconds. But it felt so long, like a whole century had passed. What did you say? He grabbed Siki tightly, trembling all over. Say that again. Your dear mother Siki, shut up. Your dear mother was the driver who hit sister. Don't you know? I really wanted to pull his ears. Siki already had a bit of a rascal-like temperament, and now with his hands in his pockets, he looked even more of a rascal. Sister, you accepted Lana's money and promised not to tell the media and her family, but I didn't. Don't worry. The person who said this out loud today is me, not you, so it doesn't count as you breaking your promise. I was really speechless. But I couldn't refute it either. I did promise Lana to take the money and keep my mouth shut, including from her family. This was also one of the reasons why I never told Silas. Even primary school students know to keep their promises. I still have this basic virtue. I originally thought that I would never have any interaction with Silas again. Unexpectedly, after going around in circles, he still found out. Silas's face was as white as a piece of paper now. You're lying? Whether I'm lying or not, just go back and ask Lana, won't you? Silas turned to look at me. He was longing for me to say no. But I faced his gaze directly. The only response to him was silence. I can't even remember clearly how Silas left that night. His steps were unsteady, as if his soul had been taken away. I know that since he was a child, his father didn't come home, and only his mother accompanied him to grow up. Moreover, because his father had an affair outside and had an illegitimate child, Silas had always been very sympathetic towards his mother. What's more, Lana sacrificed her career to take care of him. Silas respected and loved her. Just like I love my mother. It's human nature. But now, his ivory tower had collapsed. He found out that the mother he thought was selfless and loving had such a dark side. He was probably going to go to Lana to verify it. What would Lana say? Would she deny it? Or admit it? I also felt a bit tired and fell asleep as soon as I got home. The next day, I was woken up by Siki's phone call. Sister, don't sleep anymore. Today is a holiday. Hurry up and get dressed. I'll pick you up and go to the Silas family right away. I immediately woke up. What for? Silas didn't come back last night. He's probably doubting his life. He just sent me a WeChat message saying that he was going home to ask Lana. Finally, it has come to this. Siki urged me to go. I thought about it, and he was right. Since things had come to this point, there was no need to hide it anymore. However, it was inconvenient for me to show up when they were having a confrontation between mother and son. Siki came up with a crazy idea. He asked me to squat in the corner and eavesdrop. So the two of us sat under the window of the Silas family's villa, waiting for the show to start. Silas did come home. Lana happily greeted him. Why did my son come home today? Do you want to eat the dishes made by Mom? What do you want to eat? Mom will cook. Mom. As soon as Silas opened his mouth, his voice was completely hoarse. Lana was startled. What's wrong with you? Is work not going well? Or are you sick? Hurry, I'll get you some medicine. Don't bother, Mom. I'll ask you a question. Please answer me truthfully, okay? Okay, ask. Do you remember Lily? The only girlfriend I've ever had. She had an accident in her sophomore year of high school and injured her left hand. She couldn't play the piano ever since. Was this incident related to you? Lana was stunned. You, how could you think like that? It has nothing to do with me. I didn't hit her. Silas was silent. He was silent for a long, long time. Then, trembling, he said, I didn't say it was a car accident. Mom, how did you know she was hit? It couldn't be hidden anymore. Under Silas's questioning, Lana finally admitted. It was me who hit her, that's right, but I didn't do it on purpose. Why did you run away then? Lana was at a loss for words. Mom was flustered at that time. The little girl didn't seem to be seriously injured, so I ran away. I thought there was no surveillance at that intersection and no one could find me. Mom, were you drinking that day? Yes. One should take responsibility for one's mistakes. You told me that when I was a kid. Lana sighed, but at that crucial moment, our whole family couldn't afford a scandal. What crucial moment? The moment when you were about to debut. Silas froze completely. Because, me? Yes, your debut time was set a year in advance. Sponsors and business partners were all negotiated, and the way was paved for you. Have you ever thought about what the public opinion would be like if something happened? You have such excellent resources that you could release an album right after debuting. So many pairs of eyes are watching our family, eager to find a black mark to keep you out of the entertainment circle for the rest of your life. Lana also got excited as she spoke, sighing and groaning. Mom was being stupid. It was wrong to flee after a drunk driving accident, but I really couldn't afford to get into trouble. If something happened to me, you would be implicated. I did it to protect you. Protect me? These 3 words completely crushed Silas. But I don't want that kind of protection. He completely broke down. He knelt on the carpet, hugging his head in pain. Tears streamed down his face one by one. Mom, I respected you so much. How could you do this? Lana panicked. It's all in the past. You and that girl broke up, didn't you? It's not in the past. I've been in pain every day since I lost her. Silas forced back his sobs. His voice got stuck in his throat and turned into a bitter whimper. You all don't know how much I love her. Should the feelings of youth be looked down upon? Except for Lily, I haven't liked anyone else until now. I wanted to be with her all the time. Was that wrong? But Mom, it's been 5 years since I lost her. 5 years. Not until yesterday did I know the real reason why she left me. Why? 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 He seemed to be questioning his mother, and also himself. One by one, his words turned into painful shouts. At the same time, Silas pounded the ground hard, as if he wanted to break the bones in his left hand. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The questioning turned into apologies. Silas didn't know I was there. But, sorry, was the only thing he wanted to say now. After some time, Siki took out a tissue and handed it to me. Wipe your tears. I touched my face and realized that I had been crying. Why was I crying? Probably because I had truly liked Silas once. During the year when I was isolated and excluded, Silas was like a beam of light, shining into my desperate life. Such a proud person, but now, he was in pain like a trapped beast. Lana was by no means a good person. But she had educated Silas so well. People are really contradictory creatures. I wiped my tears and said, let's go. Siki asked, don't you want to watch any more? It's not interesting. Then let's go. I didn't see Silas for some time after that. I thought that he probably chose to protect his mother. My life got back on track. Finally, one morning, I saw the top trending topic. Silas reported Lana's drunk driving and fleeing the scene under his real name. When I saw this headline, I was stunned. Then, the police contacted me and asked if I was willing to press charges. I thought about it and shook my head. I had already received the compensation. Lana's mistake had been made known to the whole world. More importantly, I had a new life plan now. I was working hard for it and didn't want to spend time on a lawsuit. But this matter wasn't over yet. Just because I didn't pursue it didn't mean that Silas would let it go either. He was going to hold a press conference. What he would talk about at the conference was unknown. The media all guessed that he would apologize for his mother and ask for forgiveness. I went to the press conference venue, wearing a mask and sitting in the farthest corner. Silas walked out, wearing a black suit. I want to tell everyone something. I've officially decided to withdraw from the entertainment industry. I doubted my ears. Apparently, the reporters did too. They even forgot to press the shutter, and the scene was quiet for several seconds. Then, the chatter erupted like a tidal wave. Silas waited until everyone's emotions calmed down before he continued. First of all, I apologize for my mother's mistake. I, Silas, grew up under her care. I've been very lucky since my debut. My mother used her connections to protect me and pave the way for me. It can be said that my achievements today are closely related to her. So, no matter what, I can't cut ties with her. He looked down, a bit gloomy. I can't say that what she did has nothing to do with me. That would make me a real jerk. I've been enjoying my mother's love and convenience, walking on other people's blood to get where I am today. I've decided to quit the entertainment circle to atone for my mother until I get the forgiveness of the victim. All my income in these years will be left to the victim. If she doesn't want it, I'll donate it. There was a lot of chatter in the audience. Someone asked, is it true that the victim is your first love? Yes. Silas admitted it calmly. An old fan of Lana cursed angrily, Silas. You're an ungrateful bastard. Lana raised you for over 20 years. You betrayed her because of a first love. Do you deserve your mother? The fan rushed forward and threw earphones, bags, water bottles and other things at him. Silas didn't dodge at all. In the chaos, his forehead was hit by an earphone, leaving a cut and bleeding. When the security guards restored order, everyone noticed. Silas was crying silently. He must be blaming himself. He could have pretended not to know. Lana's good reputation built up over the years was ruined just like that. He said, I'm doing this precisely because she is my mother. Then, Silas bent down and bowed deeply. I'm sorry. This sorry was for me. It was also for many others. He didn't get up for a long time. It was 3 months later that I received the offer from the Juilliard School. This is the new plan I mentioned earlier. I'm going to study in the piano department, go all out, and start a brand new life. In these 3 months, Silas completely disappeared from the camera. Only the wails of his fans remained on the internet. But Silas didn't disappear from my life. Day after day, he hoped to get my forgiveness. One day, he got drunk. He knelt outside my door all night. I didn't tell him about my going abroad. Only on the day before my departure, I took the initiative to ask him out for the first time. I asked him to go to our high school alma mater to watch the sunset. In the classroom, there were the sounds of students reading aloud. On the playground, teenagers were sweating. We walked around the school again and again. Finally, we stopped under a wall. This was the confession wall of our school. For years, countless students had secretly carved their feelings on it. I touched a corner of the wall and said, I found it. There were 7 tiny words carved on it. You couldn't see them clearly unless you looked carefully. Lily likes Silas. Silas was visibly moved and said, Silas also likes Lily. Very much. I smiled with relief. Although a lot of things have happened, Silas, I'm glad to have known you in those 3 years. You were my youth. Silas was stunned. Lily, you were also my youth. The best youth. A plane flew overhead. Many students stopped and looked up. They were looking at the plane, as well as their longing for the future and the world. At this moment, I was no different from them. I was about to head to the best music school in the world. My dream was regained. Thank myself for always working hard and never giving up. Finally, I smiled at him, just like when we first met. Silas, I forgive you. Please let me go. Move forward.